treat me just right.
What is up? Surprise, surprise, surprise. Good mic work back at you with an impromptu commentary. I wanted to do this commentary for a couple of reasons. The main reason is because I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more. I really disliked my last commentary. I felt like I had way too much shit to talk about, and a lot of the stuff I needed to talk about I hadn't even seen that much of, and I was just really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff I needed to discuss in my last commentary, and I really just didn't like it at all. However, it's got a few more views than usual. I usually only average about 6,000 to 10,000 views for my weekly Raw reviews. This one's around 12 just in the first couple of days, so it seems like everybody liked it, but I personally did not. So I felt like I wanted to come up here again and just kind of shoot the shit about some of the current things going on in WWE and all of the matches leading up to Elimination Chamber, and just give a little bit more detail now that I'm a little bit more aware of what exactly is going on. Last week, I pulled everything I said right out of my ass. So this week, I'm a little bit more prepared, plus everything I had planned for Memorial Day was finished up a lot earlier than I thought, so I was able to get home and catch around the last 2 hours of Raw. So I feel like I'm just a little bit more caught up than I was last week. So all you're going to get out of me tonight is just a brief Raw review on what we saw. The show, in my opinion, was not very good at all, which I didn't really expect it to be. WWE never pulls out all the stops on a show on a holiday because they know people are doing other shit. They know the ratings are probably going to be slightly down too, so there's no reason to really go out of their way to give us a great show. And WWE sure as hell proved that theory right tonight, didn't they? So in addition to my brief Raw recap, I'm also going to give some updated predictions on Elimination Chamber. Last week, I tried to cram everything into one commentary and include some pay-per-view predictions, and most of those predictions have stayed the same, but I did change one match, and I think we've even added a couple of matches since last week, so there's a few other things I need to talk about anyway. First things first, let's just briefly touch on tonight's Memorial Day edition of Monday Night Raw. The show, of course, opens up with the Authority and everything like that. They end up booking a tag team match with Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and Kane. I actually didn't see the whole match, but I do know that Roman Reigns and Ambrose won, and I'm sure it was really nothing that exciting. And then after the match, Ambrose is getting interviewed by his girlfriend in the back, and he's confronted by J&J security. In a really funny moment, Noble says something along the lines of, well, slap my face and call me Sally. And Ambrose says, I'm sorry, Sally, and then slaps him right across the fucking face. Hilarious. So he's fighting with those guys. He ends up punching a cameraman, which WWE or the Authority uses to arrest him and put him in jail and all this shit. So he's arrested and hauled off, and Seth Rollins, for the rest of the show, is acting like a completely huge dick. He's good at it. You know, I'm starting to get a little irritated with Seth Rollins from time to time, which makes me realize that he's doing a wonderful job with his character, because I just think he's just such a horribly obnoxious little asshole. And I've probably said a million times that I really like heels like that. Those little funny, delusional heels are sometimes my favorite, because they can be funny without even knowing it. And I'm actually happy with his run so far. I think Seth's doing an okay job. But basically what they end up doing is they're going to have a contract signing later on in the night, which I guess will be the main event segment, and they say Dean Ambrose has until the end of the night to sign the contract for the title match at Elimination Chamber, and if he can't, then he loses his title shot. So with him being arrested, of course, he's not going to be in the building, and he's not going to be able to sign the contract, so they're all gloating and happy about that. Obviously, you know, at the end of the show, there's no way Dean Ambrose is not going to come out there. It's just they just drag this fucking shit on. We know the match is happening. It's already been fucking announced. Don't play this game with a contract like maybe there's just not going to be a title match at the pay-per-view. Give me a break. Fans know you're not going to do that. It's so fucking stupid. But anyway, they're basically thrilled because they think Dean Ambrose is not going to be able to make it to the contract signing later on. So in the meantime, I guess they show some footage of the whole attack on the cameraman, or the punch on the cameraman. Seth Rollins pushes the cameraman into Dean Ambrose, provoking the whole situation. So they framed him, threw a guy in jail for no reason. That's got to be against the law too, right? But anyway, long bullshit story short, you all saw it. We all saw what went down. The Authority's in the ring with the contract. Of course, there's no Dean Ambrose. Roman Reigns comes out and stalls things by starting a brawl with the Authority, allowing Dean Ambrose in the one bright spot of Raw to come rolling up on in there in the same fucking truck that he got taken away in, and he's wearing a hat and a cop uniform and the whole deal. Fucking hilarious. You could see it too. The funny thing was is when the camera went to the truck that was driving into the arena, it was so far back, but you could see the person in the front seat with a hat on, and you just knew it was him. Something about that seemed too perfect. So he rolls up in there, stone cold beer truck style, gets out of the truck, joins the brawl. Of course, him and Roman Reigns dispose of everybody, and Reigns hands him over the contract, and he signs it. So, of course, we knew that's exactly what they were going to do. Luckily, it turned out to be a little bit entertaining. The crowd was dead, by the way. I'm sure you guys noticed that. During all of this that I just described, there was virtually no crowd reaction at all. But that didn't stop me from getting a chuckle out of Dean Ambrose, wearing that uniform and popping out like that. So, the whole deal was just a big setup for him to sign the contract. We know he's got the match. It's no surprise to us. This is just a show that they didn't need to have, but they had to have it because Raw comes on every single week. The other big segment, of course, we knew there was going to be a little bit of follow-up with Kevin Owens and John Cena. I gave my opinions on that last week, how I felt like the Owens debut just came a little bit early because, like I said, he's got the shit going on with Sami Zayn. Samoa Joe just debuted in NXT, and John Cena. He's got a lot on his plate, and it seems like this is something they could have held off. But I still got to admit, I do like it. I cannot say enough good things about that promo that Kevin Owens cut on John Cena the week before. That was great shit. And so you knew tonight, with only 1 week before the pay-per-view, these two guys have to interact again. And Raw was in Nassau Coliseum, the final show in that building, by the way. And who's the one guy that's on the WWE roster currently that's the Long Island guy? So we kind of had a feeling. I called it out on Twitter. As soon as I realized that Raw was at Nassau, I'm like, oh, Ryder is the perfect guy to answer that challenge. A babyface match, Ryder can give Cena the same kind of matches everybody else is giving him, maybe a run for his money, and Cena wins at the end. It wasn't that competitive. Cena pretty much dominated Ryder for most of the match. The Entourage guys were out there for the movie. These guys are all movie stars that are working on a holiday like this, so they show up on Raw to introduce Zack Ryder, which was a great moment because the fans, during John Cena's promo, in which he talked about a whole bunch of shit, including Kevin Owens, I think the promo ran really long. The Entourage guys interrupted him, and the fans during the Entourage and during Cena, they were just chanting for Ryder the whole time. So if the WWE sent out anybody else other than Ryder, they were going to be a bunch of foolish idiots. And once the Entourage guys came out there, it seemed almost certain that it was going to be him. And of course, it did turn out to be Zack Ryder. Came out to a huge pop. They were cheering him throughout the whole match against Cena. The match really wasn't that much to look at. I think a lot of John Cena's U.S. title open challenges recently have been a lot better than this. Even one of the Entourage guys got involved. And if you're wondering, by the way, nothing against Entourage, but I actually never watched the show. Everybody that I have talked to that has watched it says nothing but good things about it. Everybody enjoyed the show from what I hear, but I just never got into Entourage. So maybe that's something I can pick up in the future, but I never really did watch the show, so I don't know who any of the fuckers are. One of the guys jumps in the ring to kind of interfere for a minute and gets Zack Ryder a roll-up on Cena, which of course fails. Cena eventually hits him with the AA after Zack Ryder missed a 450 splash. Is this something he's been doing recently? Holy shit, I didn't even know Zack Ryder could do that. I wish they would have let him hit the fucking thing. That was awesome, but he missed it. Cena nailed him with the AA, or the fireman's carry, and got the shitty little pin for the victory. So not my favorite match. I think Zack Ryder should have been given a little bit more of a competitive match, considering it's his town. If he's going to be cheered anywhere, it's going to be in that fucking building. He's going up against Cena, who a good portion of the crowd hates anyway. I don't even think the Entourage guys needed to be out there. Then you tie in the history. Don't forget the history between Cena and Zack Ryder. And that whole debacle with Kane and Eve Torres, that shit still makes me laugh. The fucking flat tire, and him being rolled off the ramp in the wheelchair and all of that shit, and Cena kissing his woman, and that was just horrible shit. I mean, just way to remind us of that, WWE. But if you ask me, babyface Zack Ryder could have had an axe to grind in that match. Maybe he could have gotten a little vicious with Cena, maybe taking out some of his frustrations and the lack of success in his career in the last couple of years, taking it out on Cena, maybe getting a little bit vicious. Not even going heel, just being a pissed off babyface. Giving Cena a run for his money, surprising Cena, like, holy shit, this guy Ryder is brawling with me and he's trying to kick my ass. Maybe have Cena, of course, win in the end, but just give Zack Ryder a more competitive match to where after Cena gets the victory and he's got his hand raised, he's looking down at him, kind of shaking his head like, damn, he took me to the limit. To me, poor Zack Ryder at least deserves that. But I guess at the end of the day, the WWE at least did the right thing by having Zack Ryder come out there, because if they would have sent someone else out there, the crowd would have shit all over it. After the match, by the way, the spot we were all waiting for, we knew Kevin Owens was going to make an appearance in this thing at some point. Shows up out of nowhere, attacks Cena from behind, and hits him with the power bomb again. So that's 2 weeks in a row Kevin Owens has laid out John Cena. Can you really see him winning at the pay-per-view also? I can't. I'll get into my predictions on that match here in just a little bit, but you got to think with 2 weeks in a row of Kevin Owens owning John Cena's not going to get owned a third time. We also saw the 200th match in the last 8 weeks between Dolph Ziggler and Sheamus tonight on Raw. Now, this was just a way to set up the heat between Rusev and Dolph Ziggler. During the match, Lana just comes out and stands up on the stage, and Rusev comes out shortly after that. Ziggler super kicks his ass right off the apron and turns around and eats a bro kick immediately and gets pinned by Sheamus. And then Rusev gets in the ring and attacks Ziggler while Lana watches. So clearly, this feud is off and running. I'm sure it's going to extend well past Elimination Chamber, and you got to wonder who's going to win that Intercontinental title, and that is the match that I think I've changed my opinion on. With Ziggler and Rusev, they're going to have Lana tied into this. She's going to be in the middle. Do you really need a title for this? I mentioned in my last commentary that I would like to see Dolph Ziggler win the Elimination Chamber, and I would still like to see that. Dolph would be my pick. If I had to pick anybody, it would be Dolph, because I would love to see him and Rusev feud for the Intercontinental title, and they can even exchange it a couple of times. Have Ziggler win it in the Chamber. Have Rusev beat him, I don't know, at SummerSlam, and then have Ziggler win it back from him. I don't know. Let these guys feud for a while. Why not? But I'm starting to think they're not going to go in that direction. Just something tells me they're not going to put the belt on Ziggler or Rusev right now, for that matter. Those guys will probably just continue their feud without a title. And I've got a different pick for that match instead, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And not for nothing, as Taz would say, I did mention on Twitter earlier today that isn't it funny that everybody thought that Rusev was going to be so fucked up after this feud with Cena, and he was going to be working in NXT? Well, when you look at Rusev and Cena, who's the guy working with the top talent, and who's the guy working with the NXT guy? I mean, come on, Cena's the one working with NXT. Kind of ironic how that worked out. But anyway, what else we saw on Raw was not much. We had a segment that I absolutely hated, this tag team clusterfuck. Now, I've made my opinions known on the Elimination Chamber in my last couple of commentaries. I'm not a fan of the match, especially when it serves no purpose. And there's not a better example of that than this stupid fucking tag team match. 2 weeks in a row now. Mind you, there's 3 hours of Raw WWE has to use. And for 2 straight weeks, they've decided to put every single competitor in the tag team title Elimination Chamber match in the same segment. Last week, they were all out there fighting with each other, and this week, Kane, for some reason, interrupts the New Day and says that they're going to have to take on every other team in the Elimination Chamber in a handicap match at that moment. So every other team that's involved in the chamber are now going to be on the same team. They line up around the ring like it's fucking Survivor Series, and they just take turns on the New Day. And the whole thing lasted, 8 or 9 minutes. So, this big Elimination Chamber match that's going to do a lot of damage to some of these guys' bodies, or could potentially do damage to them, especially if they take a bad bump or something like that. They're going to get hurt for completely no reason. There's no reason at all for these tag teams to be involved in a match like this with each other. There's no feuds that have the heat that would be needed for a match like this. It's just the Elimination Chamber match for the sake of an Elimination Chamber match, and that's what I don't like. I do like the idea of tag teams being involved, because that does change things up a bit, and there's going to be a lot more guys involved now, and it's just another way to, evolve the match. So I guess in a way it's going to be interesting to see how the tag team aspect works in the match, but I just don't understand why it's necessary at all. One chamber match should be all you need, and when you look at the competitors in the Intercontinental title chamber match, that has the potential to be good. The tag match, in a match like this, they're going to have to choreograph the shit out of it. It's going to look so planned. All the spots are going to be so perfectly timed and planned. You're going to be able to see them coming, and I just don't think it's going to be a match that I like very much. Now, I could be wrong. It might be the greatest Elimination Chamber match in history once it's over. I just don't think it will be. So with that being said, why don't I just briefly start predicting Elimination Chamber again? As far as what else we saw on Raw, really not much. Those were the main points on Raw. I might be missing one or two things. And where's Bray Wyatt, by the way? Did he work Raw? I missed the first hour and a half. I tried to go back and watch a little bit of the footage that I missed from Raw, but I don't remember seeing Bray Wyatt anywhere. And he's not on Elimination Chamber at all, is he? Unless they do something on SmackDown that gives him a match in between now and the pay-per-view. Looks like he's absent for this thing. So you guys can fill me in on what's going on with him. Elimination Chamber, here we go. Some updated predictions for you. Now, I'm still sticking with my pick for the main event, Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. Like I said, they're not going to be taking that title off of Rollins yet. He has to retain, and he will. I wouldn't worry about Dean Ambrose. The fact that he's got a title match to begin with is great, because it was only a couple of months ago he was working second match with Luke Harper. So the fact that he's kind of thrown into the world title mix, I think, is a very positive thing for Dean Ambrose, and he is actually my early pick to win Money in the Bank. I've been saying for a few weeks now that I really want Ambrose to win Money in the Bank, because I think he will be a fun Money in the Bank briefcase holder. You never know what this crazy fucker's going to do. He showed up on Raw tonight dressed as a police officer, so if he held that that briefcase, I think he could make it very, very entertaining to toy with the fans and have us speculate when exactly is he going to cash this thing in. And a guy like Ambrose, you think, would have to be really creative. When he finally does cash in the briefcase, it's got to be an awesome, epic moment. John Cena, Kevin Owens, I got to go with Cena. I'm pretty sure I picked Cena last time, although I was kind of in the middle. I was thinking to myself it could be a no decision, which I really wouldn't mind that still if they did some sort of DQ or count out or something like that. But you got to think with Kevin Owens doing what he did to Cena 2 weeks in a row, Cena's probably got to win. Now, you could always have a Samoa Joe run in here. I don't know if WWE wants to make it seem like Cena needs help to beat Owens, so I don't know if Samoa Joe would necessarily interfere on Cena's behalf, but maybe just get involved somehow. And whatever he does leads to Kevin Owens getting pinned or losing to John Cena, which will just infuriate him, and he'll go back to NXT and settle his score with Samoa Joe. And now you got the feud back in WWE waiting for you with John Cena whenever you want to come back. So that's what I'm thinking happens here. Regardless of what they do, I think Cena gets his hand raised, but in one of these situations where all the fans and especially the Cena haters get very concerned when John Cena wins a match, I don't think it's going to be 100% completely, totally clean. I don't think John Cena is going to beat Kevin Owens in that way. I say he either beats him with some sort of a distraction from Samoa Joe, or he just beats him in some sort of a fucked up situation. Either way, I still got to go with Cena. Intercontinental title on the line in the Elimination Chamber. This is the match I have changed. I mentioned last time that I thought it would be great if Dolph Ziggler won, or even if Rusev won, but I really kind of was thinking Ziggler would be a good guy to win because the fans like him. You can replace one strong babyface Intercontinental champion in Daniel Bryan with another, and he can feud with Rusev, which means Rusev just went from feuding for one title to feuding for another. But the more I think about it, and the more I think about that feud and Lana and everything I talked about earlier, I just am starting to not think that's going to happen. So I'm actually going to pick Sheamus, and I think it should be Sheamus because he's freshly back. He just returned right after WrestleMania. They don't want to burn him out already, and he lost a fucking kiss my ass match or whatever the hell at the pay-per-view a few weeks back. So this guy could use a solid victory, and he's a heel, and of course he's a little more brutal, a little more vicious now, and for him to win a brutal, vicious match like this should be exactly what Sheamus needs. Now, as far as the tag team title match in the Elimination Chamber, I just gave my thoughts on that match and how much I hate it, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to pick The New Day. I would like to see them keep escaping with the belts, much like Seth Rollins is escaping with the world title right now. I would like to see them, keep on that track. If they weren't going to win it, surprisingly enough, you know who I'd put it on? I'd put it on the Ascension. A lot of you are probably shitting your pants hearing that, but when you think about their gimmick and what they're all about, they're that hardcore fucking 80s throwback team that's used to chains and shit like that. They're mean, painted-faced looking guys that seems like they'd be tailor-made for a match like this, a lot better than the Matadors or the Lucha Dragons. Now, a couple of matches have been added since my last commentary, and there might even be one more, because I think I'm only counting 6 matches. So I'm thinking they might add one more during SmackDown, or I'm sure there might be a kickoff match or pre-show match, something like that. But Neville, as expected, will be taking on Bo Dallas. Now, I mentioned last time that I was really excited to see these guys work together, and now they're given a match on a pay-per-view, and I'm actually going to pick Neville. To me, I would think that maybe Bo Dallas would win because they could continue a feud and run on that. Bo Dallas can cheat or do something shady to win the match, and that can, lead to rematches on Raw or even the next pay-per-view. But I think the WWE is really trying to push Neville hard, and he just got done beating guys like Bad News Barrett and stuff like that. So I think he'll beat Bo Dallas, but maybe Bo Dallas just doesn't go away right away. And plus, I got a pretty solid amount of heels winning on this pay-per-view already, so I think I'm going to go with Neville. Got to go with Nikki, too. She's been the Divas champion for a little while now, and to have her lose it in just a throw-together 3-way for no fucking reason, the only purpose of this match is to give the pay-per-view a Divas match. That's it. To me, it just doesn't seem the right time to take the belt off my woman, and I hope they don't, so I'm picking Nikki to win. So just to recap, I've got Rollins, Cena, Sheamus, New Day, Neville, and Nikki all winning at Elimination Chamber. As it stands right now, I am actually free this Sunday night, so there is a good chance I will be up live tweeting and watching the pay-per-view as it happens. There's also a chance that something could come up and I might not be able to see it at all. Either way, expect to hear from me after the post-Elimination Chamber Monday Night Raw. Thank you very much for listening. I will catch you in a week. Peace.